Welcome to the Anderson and Lindhardt Show. This is episode 23. We believe that the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. So today we dive into some tools and systems you can implement to improve every one of your relationships, whether that be with your mom, coworker, spouse, or yourself. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless y'all.
Jordan LeBron James.
Recording, it's going.
Welcome back, Anderson and Lindhardt Nation. We are so pumped to bring you the Michael Jordan and LeBron episode number 23. It's pretty crazy. I feel like we keep saying this, but it's just like weird now that we're starting to get into the 20s. Like it's like, oh wow, like we're kind of like a legit podcast now. It's kind of like the imposter syndrome, like, oh, you guys aren't like real podcasts, but now we've been building up evidence, like we're a legit podcast. So
That's right.
we're excited to bring this episode to you today. We're not exactly sure kind of where it's going to go. We have some ideas on kind of where we're going to start, and we'll just kind of see where it goes, how long it goes, and we're excited to hopefully be able to have you guys be a part of the conversation and be able to spur some internal thoughts, some self-reflection thoughts on ways that you can continue to improve and become the best version of yourself.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess we can start with a little bit about relationships. That's kind of what we were thinking about. And kind of, we were naturally talking before we started recording, and we were kind of talking about that. And again, I think I don't know when I shared this quote, but it was a few podcasts ago. And I said, Tony Robbins, one of my favorite quotes from him is, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. And because, I mean, that's how you experience life, really. It's with other people, and it's your relationships. And so if you have a bunch of sucky relationships, then you most likely have a sucky life, and vice versa. And so Carter complimented me, which means a lot, because it's been a lot of hard work with the quality of mine and Riley's marriage. And first off, I want to say, like, I can already hear old people saying, like, oh, well, you've only been married 6 months, like, just wait, and all this crap and stuff like that really kind of bugs me, because
it's like when people say, oh, like, you're gonna wake up 6 months after your mission, and like you're gonna be listening to bad music, and
because
it's just like kind of like offensive.
Yeah, like when I got home from my mission, I think I've told you this, but I had been home for like 2 weeks, and a elder that I knew really well came over. I mean, he had been home for a year, and he was married, and he came over and just chilled with me and my family for a night. Like, we were watching the new Incredibles movie and stuff like that. And I was chatting with him that night, and he's like, how you doing, man? And I was like, good, man. Like, it's funny. Like, it's just different to be, it's kind of like what Owen was talking about the other day. Like, it was weird to be in my old environment, but as a new person. And I was like, I'm listening to like clean rap now. Like, in high school, that never would have been a thing. And it's kind of funny. And he said, oh, just give it 6 months and all that clean rap will be gone. And I literally looked at him, and I kind of got mad, and I said, no, it won't. And he's like, okay. And I was like, dude, it's not going to, because I've decided right now. And yeah, there's been times where I've listened to some explicit songs, but for the most part, 98, 99%, like, I've kept that commitment to myself. And it's just self-discipline. It's like, it's easy. It's like, I just go on Spotify, and I just, instead of looking up Logic, I look up Logic Clean or whatever, and then I just click on that song instead. And it's, anyways, that's just an example where, and with, there's another example with, my wife getting certified to be a life coach. People have said to her, literally have said to her face, who's going to want to hire a life coach who's only 19 or 20 or whatever? And they've said, who wants to hire a life coach who hasn't had a life? And it's like, well, this is not the point. Is this, we're not talking about like experience, we're talking about knowledge, if that makes sense. And so I've learned a lot of things and a lot of skills you can implement into any relationship, but specifically to a marriage, because that's the one where you're with them all the time, and you're one. Like, you need to operate as one, or else your marriage is going to wither away really fast if you're not operating as one. And so
real quick, I just think, like, in the scriptures we learn all the time, if you're not unified, then you're not of God, like that. And so that doesn't like just apply to marriage. So like I just want to kind of set the table. Like we might be talking a little bit more about like marriage and dating, but I think like these, like I remember learning about the love languages and stuff like that on my mission, being holy cow, like I can implement these into my companionships type of deal. Anyways, so I just think like when talking about like unity and when we're talking about these relationship principles, like it's like it can be between bros. Like me and Reiss have
Yeah.
used like communication like principles and stuff like that before, like whatever it might be mom and dad, it can be a sibling. And so
Mhm.
like I think you already probably said this, but like this is for every type of relationship, like Tony Robbins was saying, like because
Yeah.
the quality of those is going to affect your life. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that everybody listening, all
Yeah.
of my mom and Reese's mom, knows that we're talking about
Hopefully my
all types
grandma,
of
but probably
relations.
not.
Yeah.
But yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, this is like every relationship. Um, yeah, exactly. Every single relationship, boss, coworkers, uh, even little ones. Like I have little relationships with people at the gym that it's like at the gym, anyone who's been had a membership at a gym knows that if you go consistently, there's people who are there every day, and then there's people you see like once or twice a week, really sporadic. And so of us that go there every day, we kind of form this like camaraderie with each other, and it's like, oh hey man, like what's up? And though even those little relationships, like that improves the quality of my life, you know. And so with all that said, it's like, yeah, I've been married 6 months, and I'm not naive to the fact how hard marriage is and will become, because right now we don't have any kids, or we have a lot of responsibilities, but not nearly as much as you have when kids come in and when you have a home and things like that. And then you still have to make time for your relationship. So that's why we're practicing really hard right now to implement these systems, so that when life does get busier and we do get more responsibility, because we've implemented systems. This is like really important, because we've implemented systems, and they're just like unconscious systems, then we're still going to run them even when life gets crazy. So a lot of marriages, they get married, or people, but and for this example, a lot of people get married and they don't really need these systems yet, because life isn't that hectic. I mean, Riley and I both work part-time, and we have tons of time with each other every single day, and we can kind of just chill, and we don't have tons of bills and a home and kids, and we only have to buy food for us. And so they don't implement these systems, which we can get into some of the systems and some of the practices. They don't implement these practices, and then when life gets crazy, then because they didn't, they crumble under the pressure. And the extreme side is divorce, and the more non-extreme side is just a really crummy marriage. And so that's why we're implementing these practices, these tools, and we're making them just a subconscious rather system, so that when life does get crazy, we will still be implementing them. And so we can get into some of these are things like as simple as talking with each other, and like actually talking with each other. And
I have a quick question. So is when you're
yeah.
talking about systems, is that like I'm trying to, like in basketball, like you're training to shoot the ball and you're building that muscle memory so that when the game happens, you don't have to think about shooting the ball. You're just like, it's just happening when the pressure's on, versus like, if I don't know if you've ever been in like an environment where like you're playing a sport that you have no idea how to play. And like, let's just like, I don't know,
Dude, I have a
soccer.
perfect example. I played
Okay.
lacrosse
Yeah.
for 1 year, and I was playing JV one game, and I was a sophomore first year ever playing lacrosse, and I had the athletic ability enough to like do decent, but I didn't know the game that well, and I didn't my lacrosse IQ wasn't very high. And this one time is a fast break, and it's kind of like basketball. It's a fast break. I stole the ball and I'm running down the field. It's just me and the goalie. So all I have to do is put it in the goal. And if you're a seasoned lacrosse player, you know how to fake him out and put it in the bottom right corner, or fake him bottom and put it in the top left corner. Well, I didn't know any of that, so I just chucked it at the goal, and he saved it. He blocked it, and I was like, "Frick, man! Like this is my one chance to score a goal."
Yeah.
But because I didn't have any of those systems implemented, like it was not muscle memory to shoot a lacrosse ball. It was like what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And so I'm trying to think, and everything's happening so fast. I have a defender on my back. The
Just
goalie's
like
right
chuck it
there.
at him so hard it gets stuck in his face. Just kidding.
And so, yeah, that's like exactly right. Or like Steph Curry, his shooting mechanism is so systematic that you pass him the ball, zero point 0.3 seconds is how fast his fastest shot is from the time he gets the ball to his release. 0.3 seconds, Steph Curry can shoot it.
Well,
And that's why he
he
can shoot
talks
it and turn around.
he talks about he makes practice so fast so that the game seems slow. And
Mm.
so like I feel like I'm assuming that's kind of what you're talking about here is these systems in your relationship, these things that you're trying to build upon is so that like you can have that muscle memory so that it's second nature to fall back onto good habits versus not having any habits or bad habits. Is that what
Yeah.
you're basically
And
okay.
also, this might take me like 2 minutes to explain, maybe longer, but I think it's important. So,
Okay.
talking about systems. So, every human being has X amount of energy they can expend. And so we'll just say 100. And you have to use 10 of that for the physical, just walking around throughout the day, picking stuff up. You have to use 10 of that for digestion. And so your energy starts to add up, and mental energy is included in that. So, thinking. So, if you're having to think about things every single day, like habits, if that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out a good way to explain this. So say you're trying to, so a good example is the gym. Like say you're trying to implement a habit of going to the gym every day. Well, at first it's going to be really hard because you're going to be using a lot of mental energy to force yourself out of bed and to force yourself into your workout clothes and to force yourself to pound water in the morning so you can be hydrated and to force yourself to go get in your car. But the more you do it, the more and more it becomes muscle memory or subconscious. And then the less energy it takes to keep up that habit. So then you can have more energy to create, heal, and start new habits. And so that's the thing. Everyone has the same amount of energy. The only difference between people who are completely exhausted every day and they're using all their energy versus somebody who is just they've got systems implemented is that they have systems implemented. It's just subconscious. Like when the alarm goes off, it's no longer, oh, should I get up? Should I not? I don't want to. It's comfy. It's warm. It's cold out in the living room. But it's just like, boom, the system just kicks in and they're like, boom, get up, walk to the kitchen, drink the water, get the workout clothes on, warm up a little bit, go to the car. It's like, because they have that system implemented, yeah, it's just fallen back on. It's just that's what their body will do, and they don't even have to think about it, because if you have to think about it, you're using energy. And so exactly, we're trying to implement these systems and create systems, and systems is literally just it's just goal or not goals, tools or um, habits just in a line, and like that creates a system. So it's like I have a workout system, and that starts with bedtime. So I have to go to bed at a certain time. I have to wake up at a certain time. I have to do this. I have to wake up and drink water. I have to get my workout clothes on. I have to go to my car. I have to drive to the gym. I have to do my workout. And then I have to come home and I have to make a big breakfast for my post workout meal. And then I shower, and then boom, that's my workout system. It's not just going to the gym, it's that whole thing. And that creates a system. And so you have to get those systems. Well, you don't have to, but if you want to have a lot of energy, and this includes mental energy, then you got to make those things unconscious systems. So it's kind of an exciting idea to me, because it's like, cool, yeah, it's not just about one goal. It's not just about going to the gym. It's about this whole system. Or it's not just about doing personal study. It's not like you just personal study only includes sitting down at your desk and reading scriptures. It includes you to carve out enough time for it. It includes you to say a prayer at the beginning. It includes you to have your scriptures ready and notes ready and a journal ready and a pencil ready, and the proper environment. You have to make sure your doors, like, it includes all these things. And if
Yeah.
you can just make all that unconscious, boom, it takes no energy, and it's just easy.
Yeah, no,
So
I think this is like an exciting idea, and obviously it applies to way more than just
this is
relationships, but
everything.
like
Yeah.
because it's like it's almost like remember talking to Elder Haney and we were like driving back
Oh
when we were
yeah.
driving Elder Haney to the airport. I think we asked him like, well, how do you balance like being a member of the church, being, you know, a dad, having a
For
career?
those of you
Do-
who don't know, Elder Haney is a member. I think he still is. He might have been released, but he's is or was a member of the 70. So he's a busy man. The church is sending him all around the country to go do zone conferences with missionaries, to go meet with stake presidents, and blah 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 blah. So he's busy.
he's pretty important. So well, he probably wouldn't like us say that. Anyways, he's a really
Yeah,
cool guy.
he's
And
really
so
cool.
me and Reiss were taking him to the airport, and we were like just kind of picking his brain about a whole lot of things. And I think I can't remember who asked it, but we had both talked a lot about like bouncing because like we are both
It
coming
was
to
you,
the
I remember. Yeah,
end of our missions and like kind of trying to figure out like how because like I don't know like the end of your mission like you just want to come home and just be the coolest member missionary. You want to just build like not that that's not the case anymore, but it's just like very pertinent in your mind. So we asked him, how do you balance all this? And he was like, well, sometimes I think you talk about like they're spinning plates on something, I don't know, and he's like
like
sometimes
the people who spin plates on the sticks or
yes,
whatever.
that's what it was. And he's like, sometimes you just like drop your plates. Like, so, like sometimes you're just not going to be able to do it all, which kind of surprised me. Anyways, this conversation is kind of enlightening because I think it's helping me more understand that not obviously like we're not going to be perfect. You are going to drop plates sometimes. Like sometimes you're not going to, be as spiritual as you need to be, or you're not going to be as good physically or mentally, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
But to me, hearing this is like, okay, I can kind of combat that just a little bit, and being able to like, if I can just have this, spiritual, you know, habit on subconscious, not that what you're doing is subconscious and meaningless, but that the habit is already there, that system's in place. You don't have to necessarily put so much energy into making sure that it's happening. And like physical education, relationships, like if you can put those systems, because I've always had like this dream of just having so many like systems in place. So it's like every Friday I know I'm cleaning the bathroom or whatever it might be. And I don't know, this is just exciting for me because I feel like if you can get it down subconscious, it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like you're going to be able to better spin those plates and to not drop
for
them as
sure.
often.
100%. And it's like you said, yeah, you'll have hiccups here and there because you're human, but you can get really efficient. And I was listening to this lecture by Jordan Peterson, believe it or not. I listened to him
Wait,
the
you
other day.
listen to Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, dude, every once in a while. I'm just
Okay.
kidding, like every day. So, anyways, he has he posts all his lectures from his classes at his university on YouTube. And so a large chunk of them. So I was listening to one, and he was talking about how much time people waste. And he said, I've asked hundreds of my classes before how much time they think they waste every day, and the average answer for our age of students, because that's who he's teaching, early 20-year-olds, is like the average answer is something like on the low end 4 hours, on the high end 6 to 8 hours. And he's like, and that's stuff like you're watching pointless YouTube videos that you're not even really interested in, and you usually feel worse after you watch it. That's things like just laying on the couch, and it's just abdicating responsibility, really. And so there's a difference. Side note: there's a difference between like having time to watch 2 episodes of a show or watch a movie, like that's okay, but I'm talking about just impulsive. You could be doing something productive, but instead you're just binging through YouTube or uh, don't even like to say the words, but TikTok. Ugh. Just kidding. But anyway, so he's like, when you start to get efficient, you have no idea how efficient people get, because human beings, we have this ability to, because we have the subconscious and we also have the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex can think, and it can think laterally in time, and it can think, well, if I instead of watching 5 episodes a day of my favorite show, if I watch two, that gives me 40 minutes times three, much more time. And if I instead do this in that amount of time, if I go to the gym and read 20 pages of a book and then journal for 30 minutes and then go buy groceries for a good dinner and then make dinner, that gives me time to do all that. And then if I do that every day for a year, where will I end up? And by the way, if you do that every day for a year, that's going to be so easy. By the end of the year, you won't even be thinking about it. So it's really worth thinking about, well, how much time do I waste? And that's different for everybody. It's subjective. It's up to you. How much time do you
Right.
waste according to your definition? Not to mine, not to Carter's, not to anybody, but how much time am I wasting according to me? And then ask the question in a pondering state of mind, and you'll most likely start getting the answer. And it's probably going to be a lot more time than you think. And so
Yeah.
um, that's an interesting idea. That's something worth asking yourself, how much time are you wasting according to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I'll plan out I usually plan out my day like every single day, and like I'll just like put in blocks. It's basically like area book. It's like I'll just put in little blocks of like what I'm going to be doing, and like a lot of the times like I'll just put in like the things I need to get done, like workout or go play basketball, read your scriptures, shower, lunch, eat. And it's like it's interesting how like if you just get the little small things that you have to do out of the way, how much, like, because I think sometimes we think like, oh, they like don't take up that much time or it'll be really easy to get done, but like I put those in and I'm like, holy cow, I only have like 3 or 4 hours of like time where I can do, podcast stuff or go and work on seminary stuff or go hang out with a friend or go on a date, like whatever. And so like then I'm like, I really can't afford to ever be wasting time. And then I still do it like sometimes. And obviously like it's not bad to play video games or whatever, but like so I think about to myself all the time. I'm like, did I like honestly I really don't ever have time to be playing video games because of like all the stuff that needs to get done. Anyways, I'm just thinking out loud, but like
Yeah.
I just I really like that idea of thinking about how much time you are wasting and then being able to think about what you could be doing, with that amount of time and how far you could get with that. So I just really like that.
Yeah. And then think about, I put it on my story, and I've talked about this before. I put it on my workout story yesterday. You get compound interest on incremental improvement. And it's like that idea. And it's vice versa too. You get compound interest on incremental, uh, doing bad stuff, it's
Yeah.
like, and so I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And when I say lately, I mean like the past 4 or 5 months when I first heard that lecture. And it's like, holy crap. So if you think about that, really, it's like, okay, by small and simple things, great things are brought to pass, and it's in a non-linear fashion. It's exponential both ways. But if I just do little things, it's not going to be in our human brain. Our human brain thinks laterally. It thinks through time. It thinks yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And so it thinks like this. Like if I improve, it'll be like a staircase, but it's like, no, it'll actually be like a roller coaster. Let's go straight up, because and you have to remind yourself of that, because it's really easy to be like, the gym, for example. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to the gym, or let's actually use a relationship, for example. It's like a lot of clinical psychologists suggest that you have at very, very least 90 minutes with one-on-one time with your spouse per week. And a lot of people aren't even doing
You said
anywhere.
that's the bare minimum.
They say
Okay.
90 minutes at least you should have one-on-one time with your spouse where you're actually talking and not just sitting in the same room reading a book and on the phone, but like you're actually talking with each other. And most people aren't even doing that. And to
Yeah.
me, I was like, dang, that's crazy. But it's like, I can understand how that could be difficult once you start getting a really busy life, but it's most definitely possible. Like, it's not a stretch to get 90 minutes, and you just have to be intentional with it. But so you think, well, if I do 90 minutes a week with my spouse, you start thinking your improvement in your relationship is going to be like this, and it's going to take a long time. Like, say the microphone here is now, and say like the edge of this bookshelf is like a year. So it's like, oh man, it's going to take a year for our relationship to get here if we're doing the 90 minutes per week. But it's like, no, actually, you got to remind yourself it's actually probably going to be somewhere up here. This is how good your relationship's going to get in a year if you're doing that every week, because it'll be like this. Then all of a sudden, oh, it's starting to get better. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like, boom. And so I've been reminding you have to, especially with physical things, because you don't see, actually with everything, even with relationships, you're not seeing it instantly. You're
Yeah.
not saying, man, my relationship's not really getting any better. It's like, yeah, because it starts out kind of slow, but you just got to remind yourself, okay, if I do this every single week or every single day or whatever for a year, it's going to be exponential. And so we can go back to the relationship about implementing these systems. Um, Riley and I do a lot of systems, and the main thing I want to stress that's added, that has made our relationship healthy and thriving, because a relationship is a living thing. It has to be taken care of. And entropy
Isn't
is
that kind
just,
of weird to think about
yeah,
that
it's
it's
like,
like a tangible, like obviously you can't see it, but it is a tangible thing, a relationship, which is crazy.
yeah, and it's subject to entropy, which is, entropy is just the law of the universe, that if you're not maintaining something, it's going to degrade. just on its own. If you leave a house and don't do anything to it for 30 years, what's it going to look like in 30 years? It's not going to get better, and it's not going to stay the same. It's going to get worse. Same thing with a
It'll look like
relationship.
that crack house we went to.
Which one? We went to the lot,
The
dude.
with the one with
The
like
dude with the one eye?
no, but that was yes, that
Brother
okay, that's a
Pyron was
good
with us.
yes, that okay, that's a good example. I was thinking of the one that
Dude,
the
that
one that
guy.
we helped Sarah and Denton move into. The
Oh,
Bonafide show.
this is a bonafide show. I was like, dang, Sarah, you've said this like, I think like at least 34 times, and it's still not getting any better. So maybe that was sad.
It's real sad. Anyway, so that's what maybe we'll have to post a picture of a crack house or something.
Bruh. Yeah. Oh my
this
gosh.
is what your relationship will be if you don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And people, and that's another thing your brain will think is if I don't if I don't do anything to make it better, then it's just going to stay the same. It's like, no, entropy will kick in and it will get worse if you're not actively trying to make it better. And so one of the main things, I would say the main thing Riley and I are really intentional about is having dialogue. So I'm not just going to say talking. I want to use the word dialogue carefully, because dialogue means two beings engaging in conversation or in speech, because monologue is one person, dialogue is two, trialogue, quadrilogue, these are real terms. It's kind of weird. Like right now we're having a dialogue between you and me, but dialogue, like engaging in dialogue with your spouse, and Riley and I do it a lot more than 90 minutes, especially right now. I mean, we have so much time. And most of the conversations that are required to have to keep our relationship growing are really, really uncomfortable and hard. And it's so much easier just to not do them and forget about it. But we don't allow that. And if say I'm starting to kind of shut down, and you get to know your spouse really, really, really well. So say I'm starting to notice like she's shutting down or vice versa. I'll just say, like, hey, what's on your mind? Like I know I probably did something and triggered a thought. So like, let's talk. And it's uncomfortable to do that, but because we've done that so much, and we keep doing it, and we actually made a pact with each other when we got married. Like, we didn't do official vows, I guess, because we just got married in the temple and hurry and split because it was just a small COVID wedding, but we made vows to each other though. Like we just, but not under that like pretext. It wasn't like, let's do
Yeah.
vows. It was just like, we were talking about how we want our marriage to look. And it was like, one, we need to always be consciously creating our relationship. That's one of our like mantras. We need to always be consciously creating our relationship. We're not just going to let life dictate where our relationship goes. We're going to impose our will in the world and with our relationship and make it the way we want it. And that's going to require a lot of dialogue, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. And we vowed to each other that we would call each other out if our negative patterns started kicking in. So, and we've done that. We've held true to that, and it's been really uncomfortable and kind of like, you kind of get triggered sometimes where she'll be like, hey, dude, like your perfectionism is full-fledged, like kicked in right now. And I'll just be like, oh, like, don't bring it up. Like, that's pissing me off. But it's like, thank you for bringing it up. Like the little kid inside of me, like the little emotional brain's like throwing a fit, but I can think, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad she brought this up because it was taking over. And so it's dialogue, man, like talking with each other and really digging deep, and it's really uncomfortable, but it pays off. It pays huge dividends.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think one of the biggest things building on that, because like I think anyone listening is like, yes, I want that in my relationship. And it's like, I think for you and Riley, like I wasn't like involved in your relationship, but like we would talk about it all the time when you would call. And so just like kind of seeing how it developed and things like that, I think it was so cool because you set those expectations very early on. Not not
Very
like
early.
not like, oh, like, hey, like we're getting married, like into like it was more so like, number one, I'm serious about this, but number two, like we're gonna be openly communicate. And I think like it's a lot harder to have been in a relationship and then start communicating and being like, oh, hey, by the way, like we've been talking for 2 months, and like we should probably figure some things out. Like that's really awkward. That's really uncomfortable. But if you
Yeah.
both have the expectations of like, hey, like you, like if I'm pissing you off, like please like let me know. Or like if there's something I can do to like better help you, let me know. Or if there's something that you're doing, like I'm gonna let you know. And setting those expectations, like I think we learned this on our mission, like how important setting expectations are with people, whether it's friends, whether it's your boss, whether it's, you know, like for me, my seminary class, like there were so many things I was kicking myself at the end of the semester for not setting expectations with them with. And
Mm,
so like for me, like kind of going back on like how important it is to communicate, it starts at the very beginning. And obviously like you can like reset expectations. Like I'm not saying like if you haven't set expectation, your relationship's doomed. But I just think like for people starting relationships or looking for relationships, like setting those expectations is so important because then it's almost like you're not the bad guy. It's almost like the expectation can be the quote unquote bad guy because it's like you've both agreed on it and you're both working towards it. And so for me, like I don't like being the bad guy. I don't like bringing stuff up like that. But when it's like, okay, we both agreed to it
yeah.
and both committed to it, it's a whole lot easier to do that.
Yeah. Cause if we had never had that whole long conversation of like, hey, anytime blah blah blah, bring it up, or anytime I do this, blah blah blah, bring it up. If we didn't do that and she just brought something up, I'd be like, yo, get off my back. Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, is that really that big of a deal? But because we've had that preliminary conversation, when it's brought up, I feel, yeah, I feel like the you could say like the natural man emotions of irritation and whatever, but I feel grateful. Like
Yeah.
beneath all that, I feel grateful. I'm like, okay, yeah, thank you for bringing that up because I'm remembering this graph, you know, and I'm reminding myself of that every day. Like I know if we keep doing this, we're gonna end up,
It's having an aim.
yeah, having an aim. And so literally, yeah, it's just like all these principles, they apply to everything in life. Have an aim, and it needs to be a joint aim. And I think another thing that just came to my mind is, and this goes for any, like we said, any relationship, letting one, reminding yourself that the person that you're engaged with, whether it's a homie, a bro, um your mom, your brother, your spouse, they are an individual. And so this is weird because it's like you're one, but you're two individuals. And so, and you need to remind yourself that like if they do something that bugs you and doesn't live up to your personal standards, but if they're living up to their personal standards, then you need to remind yourself like, okay, this is their journey, their life, they're doing them. And so, not really articulating this very well, but
No,
I
I think what you're basically trying to say is like you have your own expectations for yourself, and a lot of the times we put those on other people, and when they don't do that, we're disappointed. But understanding that they have their own expectations for themselves is different, that like it's different. And so like for me, like I'm sure I disappoint people all the time, whatever it might be, but it's like I have different expectations for myself. Not like that's just for example. I'm sure I my expectations are higher for myself than most
yeah,
people, but like
probably.
trying to like like figure out in your own, this is a hard thing to explain, so maybe yeah, but like trying to understand that their expectations are different and you kind of have to be okay with that. Is that like
Yeah, it's like this. I just kind of think I thought of a easier way to explain this. So it's like everyone has their own set of rules, and whether you know it or not, you're living by a set of rules. Um, you have a rule book for Carter. I have a rule book for Reiss. Riley has a rule book for Riley, and if she's keeping her rules, but that rule goes against one of my rules, and I'm like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, what the heck? And she's like, what? Like, I'm doing great for myself. And so that's part of it. But with a relationship like a marriage, some of the rules need to overlap. And so you have to have, each of you will have your own rule book, but you need a shared rule book as well. And so that's going to take, I probably would say that's going to take a few years to sort out. And it's always
right?
going to, it's subject to change throughout the rest of your marriage. And so that's going to say, like, for example, Riley and I had different rules for ourselves with technology use. And one time um, I like confronted her about her technology use, and we had to make a rule, a joint rule, where we're like, okay, my rules for myself is blah, 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 X, Y, and Z for screen time. And yours is X, Y, and Z for your screen time. And you violated my rule. So I spoke out against it, which I look back and see I learned. I'm like, I could have done that in a way better way. So now for future reference. And so live and learn, which is really important. You got to live and learn with relationships and forgive yourself and forgive the other person. But we actually came to a compromise and actually created a new rule that's kind of our relation, like our rule book, not just hers and mine, but like our rule book. And so now we're clear on the rule, if that makes sense. So now it's like, here's our rule book. And so I hope this is making sense. But if she's within keeping and I'm within keeping of our rule book, then we're good. And because we talked about it, then it doesn't bother you anymore. So it's not like now I see her on her phone at a certain amount of time and I'm like, oh man, like I don't get these irritated feelings within me because she's within our rule book, if that makes sense. And so that takes dialogue, lots and lots and lots of dialogue. So that's just like so important, is communication. It's impossible to quantify, but who knows how many fights and divorces and fallouts with friends and parents are due to miscommunication.
Probably pretty high
So much.
percentage.
I would say, there's those outliers where it's like, oh, my brother murdered somebody, so I'm not going to talk to him anymore, or
Like,
whatever, like there's those outliers. Or it's like, oh, my wife cheated on me with like 10 times, so besides those outliers, what percentage? I would say it's in the 90s, man. It's, if not 90, it's huge. It's huge because you can, oh man, it's just, communication is so ginormous. So ginormous.
one of the things that, like, for me,
It's
when
huge.
yeah,
It's
when
freaking,
you and Riley were starting like your guys' relationship and we would talk about it on the phone, one of the things that always inspired me was how you guys had the mantra. I don't know if it was exactly like this, but basically like obsessively communicating. Was that kind of one of the things you guys would say?
yeah, that's exactly right. We obsessively
Communicate.
communicate. Yeah.
And
Obsessively.
I thought that was really cool because like when you're both on that same page, like, if it's like you might obviously like there's a point where you could over communicate and you're like, hey,
Where you're like nitpicky about everything, and that gets into the rules.
right. But I think trying to, if you're obsessive about something, it's something that you're really passionate about. It's something that you want to be doing right. It's something that is very important to you. And if you can both be on that same page, like to me, like ever since like you've kind of said that, that's been kind of my expectation in any relationship going forward, is like trying to be obsessively communicating with them, because I don't want to have those miscommunications and have, something that I do be the reason that, a friendship fails or a relationship doesn't work out. And so like even though it's hard to do, like be obsessively communicating, it's like, I don't know, that's something I've always thought was really cool about what you and Riley have kind of done.
Yeah, and like, yeah, see, we were doing that early on in our relationship, and we've laid down that system, and we've been working on that system, and it's getting to the point where it's not even like, hey, maybe we should talk. It's like, no, we're just talking all the time, and it's like we're bringing stuff up all the time. And I just thought of another thing. So the idea of not hiding stuff from each other, this has to go for everything. And so with marriage specifically, say, so not hiding stuff from each other. And I mean like even little things. Like for me and Riley, health is a priority. So I don't even hide from her how much sugar I eat a day, because to me that would be lying. If I like, to me, I'm not saying for anyone else,
Right.
to Reiss, if I ate over 40 grams of sugar or something, or if I had like a bunch of gushers at work and a soda and I didn't tell Riley personally, I would feel like I'm lying, and I would be like, oh, I feel so guilty. And so like, I don't know,
You're
that
like,
works for
hey
me and
Riley,
Riley.
can
Like
I talk to you? She's
I
like, oh crap,
she's like, oh no, I
I had two gushers at work. She's like,
she's like, 2 pouches. I'm like, no, 2 gushers.
two boxes. I'm sorry.
2 boxes and a root beer. And it was the
But
whole
it was.
jug.
She's like, get out. Get
We're
out.
done. I just need some space tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, anyways.
But yeah, anyways, so yeah, being open about everything. Like you and I have talked about this. I talked about this with tons of missionaries. I was like, can you imagine being scared to leave your phone with your wife? If you're scared to leave your phone with your wife, or I dare say your girlfriend that you are serious with, you are a piece of crap.
Or your parents,
Yeah.
I think.
And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, there's a difference between like them snooping in personal messages. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like just the normal stuff. Like if they hop on your YouTube to go search something, it's like, are you going to be ashamed of what they see on there? If you look on my YouTube, it's pretty much just lectures and workout videos. But I just like could not imagine that. I'm like, that's just not even a question to be like scared. Like in fact, Riley and I's face recognition is in each other's phones. Like we did that when we were dating. Like when we knew we were going to get married, it's like, okay, put your face in my phone and I'll put my face in your phone. Because we're one and I don't have anything to hide. And as soon as
Right.
you have something to hide, you better admit it and speak up or you're going to regret it.
I think like as a missionary, you would do like, I mean, obviously it didn't always happen once a week, but you'd have like the phone audits or tablet audits
Yeah.
or whatever. And obviously you're not going to like do that with your wife and be like, all right, it's audit time. But I
Yeah.
think like having those principles of that someone like, cause for me, like, not that like I was ever going to do anything bad on my tablet or whatever, but it was almost like I can't remember. They could see like your screen time or whatever, or they could
Yeah.
see like, which apps you use the most.
They
And it's
could see
like
like how much time you spent on Facebook or whatever. I
I
think.
I didn't want like, missionaries to be like, oh, like Elder Anderson is on Facebook all the time, or like, oh, Elder Anderson, makes list of his top, 100 NBA players on his tab, like whatever it might be, like
You're
just
just
things
in
like
personal
that.
study, like LeBron
It's like,
James or Michael Jordan, who's number one?
oh my gosh, I'm just like crying over there. You're like, oh man, he's having a good personal
Yeah,
study.
I'm like,
I'm like, I can't decide if it's enough. Anyway, but like
so
that, like
inspiring.
that, that added level of accountability for me was like really important. And you can see like
Yeah.
how that then translates into a relationship of being like, I want you to be proud of my technology use, or I want you to be
Yeah.
proud of the way that I do this. Cause I remember like one of like my very like second exchange, I remember the zone leader asked me, he was like, are you using your technology, like, is God proud of the way that you're using it? And I was like, holy cow, that's like a really good question to ask. And it wasn't like I wasn't like doing anything bad, but I think like because I had just come out, like I would like, instead of going and adding people in Virginia, I would go and add people from home or whatever. And it was like I was doing it so my Facebook profile would look normal or whatever, but it was like, okay, like at this point God doesn't need me to be doing that anymore. Anyways, it's just like for me that principle is like, would my wife be proud of the way that I'm doing this, or would my friend? And just like kind of having that added accountability and openness is really powerful, because then it you're not doing it alone anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's huge, just being open. But anyways, yeah, in the end, like it's a living organism. You can think of it that way. A relationship's a living organism, and it's subject to entropy if you are not constantly working on it, and that's going to create um creating expectations, because that is gonna clear up so much. You have one 30-minute conversation where you set expectations, it'll last for 45 years, 50, 60, 70 years of a marriage. Like you're good. Or with friends, like Carter and I have set expectations with each other. We've said to each other, like, if there's any thing that you think I can work on, or like that's annoying or something, like tell me, and we've actually stuck to that. And it hasn't happened often, but there has been times where
Right.
we brought something up and it wasn't like, dang bro, like what the crap. It's like, oh cool, thank you. Like we had set this expectation, and so I appreciate you staying loyal to our expectation. And so setting expectations and then just communicate obsessively. And so that's different for everybody, but it does include not lying. And so that's just huge. It's like not lying, and not lying includes two things that we don't often think about. That means not hiding anything from them, even if it's not necessarily like really bad. If it's just like poor habits, like if you're trying to hide that, from them, truth's going to come out. And the later it comes out, the bigger that monster had time to grow and the worse it's going to be. So it's like, just get it over with and be like, hey, like, there's this habit I do every day that I'm not really proud of. Like, even if it's something like I'm talking about, if you don't want to be drinking soda and you're like at work, like the dudes bring soda and I drink like 2 of them, like it's something as silly as that. But like being open with your partner is huge. It's huge.
So I just have like a quick question for you
Huge.
of like what would you say in any relationship would be like, obviously like setting expectations, but when you like are setting those expectations, what's like what would you say is like the most important like system to like say, hey, like what I want to put this in place, like for every relationship starting off, whether it's a friendship, romantic one, sibling, parent, like what would you say is the most important system to like have be the foundation of that relationship? That's a big one.
Yeah, very big. And there was different layers to the question because you ask different people. So like friend,
That's true. Dang
brother,
it.
mom, spouse, because it's going to be different. Because
That's true.
it's not like, for example, like if Riley and I kind of have this relationship rule, like in our rule book, about just needlessly wasting time on scrolling through social media. Like it's just kind of not, it's not really acceptable all the time. And there are times for it, but there's times when it's like, we're making dinner with each other, and if one of us were to get on Instagram and just completely forget about the person, like, see, forget about it, we don't even do that. But if we did, it'd be like, I would speak up and be like, hey, you're breaking our rule. Like, that's, I feel like you're ignoring me or something like that. But with my mom, if I'm making dinner with my mom and she's like scrolling on Pinterest, I don't care at all. So they are gonna vary. And the one with your, eternal partner is gonna be like the most intensive.
Mhm.
Um, but so it's kind of difficult, but I think the underlying thing just needs to be, I think if I had to sum it up in 2 words, it would be um, service. So serving each other, and communication. So service and communication. You have to be able to serve each other. And see, you can do that with your siblings. Like, um, like when little kids like to make their brother's bed or something, like little sweet things like that. Um, but yeah, service and communication are huge. And so, dude, I've said that like so many times now. They're freaking huge, bro. But yeah, service and communication are really, really, really big. And so I think that's the principle. And then you build off of that, and the
Right.
principle is going to be applied differently to every relationship. Like you and I are going to apply those principles differently than I do with my mom, and I do with my boss, and I do with Riley. It's like, but those are the principles. It needs to be built on service for the other person, and open communication with the other person, and within those principles you could dive into them and just just rip them open. There's just a million applications that can come out of each of those. But yes, serving the person, having an intention of service, and having an intent to always be communicating are giant.
Yeah, I'm glad you formulated that. That's what I was trying to formulate. It was like, what's like the base layer of any type of a successful system that you implement, and that I'm glad you put that in there of service and communication. And just as I was thinking about it, I think for me, like putting like God at the center of our life, we haven't really talked about it, but that's just kind of what popped into my head of like, if you have those three, if you put service, communication, and God at the center of every single one of your relationships, I think that um the quote by Tony Robbins, I think you're gonna have a pretty
Oh yeah,
amazing. I think you're gonna have a pretty successful
quality
life.
of your life is going to be really, really positive if you have all those positive relationships.
And it's like it kind of, I think for me, like the call to action for me personally, or even like people listening, I think would be to I just take one relationship and figure out how you can strengthen, one of those three things, whether it's service, whether it's communication, or whether it's centering it on God. Because I think like obviously those three can kind of, it's, I mean, it's the same thing as mind, body, and spirit. It's like they can get out of balance and stuff like that. So I think for me, like that's what I'm thinking about is like, all right, in my relationships, how can I strengthen kind of those three things? Because for me, that's very tangible to be like, okay, I can work on those three things.
Yeah. Yeah, and then think about how you can implement one of those three per what relationship you're thinking of. If it's like, oh man, well, my relationship with my best friend or has kind of dwindled and it's not that good. So let's see, I guess, sit at the edge of your bed at night and kind of turn off the screen, get away from everything and let your mind slow down, and then pose the question, what should I work on first with this particular relationship, and then what do I need to do? Never ever ever what does the other person need to do. Like, forget about that. If you're blaming it on the other person, then you're missing the point. It's like, what do I need to do? So anytime the quality, and obviously there's outliers where the relationship is so far gone. Like, I guarantee there's just hundreds and thousands of families out there who have a sibling who gets super wrapped up in alcohol, say, and they've tried to help 100 times, and the brother's just continually lying and saying, oh, I'm gonna quit, and it's okay for the family to be like, well, dude, like, we love you so much, like, it hurts to see you doing this, but we're not gonna be putting all this effort in anymore because it's not going anywhere. If you need us, give us a call, come to mom's house, we're here for you, but we're done. But other than those outliers, it's you, it's always
Yeah.
you. It's like, you could be doing more, you need to be changing something. So, and obviously that principle can bring on a lot of um, self-punishment. So
Right.
there's a lot of, you have to be conscious of those self-punishing thoughts that will come up, but it's important to do that with yourself and to get real with yourself.
Yeah, that's something that's been hard for me because like in dating, like it takes, it takes two people. And so I asked myself what more can I do? But it's been really cool to see how like Heavenly Father has helped me see like this is what you can be doing to do your part. And then it's like if it works, it works. If not, don't like stress yourself out. Cause I think like you said, it can bring up those self-destructive tendencies to be like, I need to be doing more, 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 more. But I think trying to like set boundaries for yourself on like kind of like, all right, this is what I can do, and if I'm doing that, then I'm doing okay. It's like setting those rules for yourself because like obviously we don't want people to be like stressing themselves out and feeling really bad because none of their relationships are working out when they're doing all their part. So yeah, that was just kind of my like last thought is just like kind of like do it you can figure out ways that you can strengthen those relationships. I'd say just start with one and figure out one thing that you can do to start to strengthen that relationship and just see that what do you call it,
The exponential growth,
yes,
improvement,
and
the exponential improvement that'll come.
watch as that happens because me and Reiss can both testify that it does. Like it's amazing to see that start to happen. So that would be my call to action, and kind of just last thought would be like to take it seriously and to actually sit down and to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ditto, man. Amen. Relationships are everything. I mean, that's life right there. So, full circle, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships. So if you want a higher quality life, then start working on your relationships. And it all starts with you. It never starts with the other person. Just get that out of your mind. That's the blame game, and that leads nowhere good. So take responsibility for your actions, your thoughts, the way you're taking care of the relationship, and do what you can do. And then let the other person be them. You know,
You do you.
you do you, you do you, bae.
I'm gonna have a bass soon. I just know it. But
Oh, dude, hopefully, bro.
if there's anything that we talked about today, Anderson Lindhardt Nation, that you want us to go more in depth into, we haven't had anyone take us up on this offer yet. So I'm waiting for someone to do it. But if there's something that we talked about today that you want us to dive deeper into, we'd love to hear what you guys want us to talk about, to hear about what you like are interested in, what sticks, what's like like openly communicate with us. If you're like that episode sucked, then let us know. Or if you're like that episode was really good, you should do more things like that. Like please, like we want to have open communication and dialogue with the nation. And so let us know what we can do to continue to improve. And we love interacting with you guys, whether it's Sam Merrill always coming through with the comments
Shout out to Sam, bro. We
or
got to
well,
reply to his comment.
whatever it might be. Like it's just it's awesome. And so let us know what we can continue to do better and what we're doing well, whatever it might be, because we appreciate all the support and want to continue to improve because we want to take this places. So
Yeah.
let us know.
And if you want to be on here.
Yes.
So it's as easy as you carve out an hour or two and I send you a Zoom link and we're on. So
Hopefully we don't have too many technical difficulties.
yeah, with Owen, we had a few at the beginning. So yeah, definitely hit us up. We love having other people on here. It's fun to have dialogue with other people. I guess trialogue rather.
Right. Yes.
Dude, that's just a funny term. Trialogue,
And we're gonna get what's for.
quadrilogue.
We're gonna go for quadrilogue at some point, maybe one day. We've had that. Yeah, we did that with
Yeah, we had a
Cam and Cam
quadrilogue.
and Jackson.
And Maddie and Jackson. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, we're good. So we got to go for 5 now.
Well,
A
yeah.
trilogue.
How do you? Yeah, well, I don't know what you would call that.
Octagon.
No, that's
Pen,
eight.
pentalog.
Oh, yeah, probably pentalog.
There you go. I just thought of the pentagon.
So, anyways, I was just thinking next episode will be Kobe Bryant
Kobe.
in memory of Kobe. So,
There you go. It's gonna be a good one. We're excited.
yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening in. If you made it this far, then you are the OG. Carter and I love you, and we're here for you, and we pray for you, and we have big muscles, and that's all I'm gonna say.
All right, we love you guys. Bye.
I love you.